my journalism background, the Emmy and Peabody Awards from ABC News, CBS News, CNN, Peter Jennings' Late Night Specials. And one of the things I've learned is that a headline tends to grab everybody, and that gives you the story. And part of the story is the who, what, when, where, how, and why, the 5 W's and an H. And that's what we're going to give you today. So kicking it off will be Dr. Angela Martin. Doctor, what is your, not diagnosis, what's your headline for today?
So ladies, when you decide to sell your business, you should first ask yourself the question, like Hamilton, who do you want to be in the room where it happens? And more importantly, who do you not want to be in the room?
Aha, all right, that's our headline. What's the headline from South Africa?
Actually, you've got to keep your head in the game. And the other thing is that you absolutely have to do is negotiate the deal and not the price.
All right, we have to hear more about that later on. See, these are good headlines. Sheri.
So when selling your business, you need to have your house in order. Just like when you sell your house, you have to have fresh paint. There can't be any dirt under the roofs. When you're selling your business, everything has to be clean. Clean financials, clean purchase and sales agreements, and clean governance.
All right, and cleaning up would be Ellie. What do you have for that?
So build your business as if it is going to last and you are going to own it forever, but be ready to sell it tomorrow.
All right, and speaking of being able to sell it tomorrow, I'm going to jump back to Angela because I want to hear about who should be in the room and who shouldn't. But coming off of this, it reminded me of a story you told us last night about how your business got sold like that. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so first of all, selling your business is a very complicated process. I think when it was all said and done, my paperwork totaled 400 pages. So it's a very complicated process. So you really want to have experts at your side. And so for me, I used a mergers and acquisition attorney. And so a lot of people use their business attorney, or they may have relationships with attorneys that they've worked with over the years. But this is a time when you really want an attorney that specializes in mergers and acquisition, because it really does make a difference. Also, the CPA will be very integral to the deal, and so you want to make sure that your CPA has mergers and acquisition experience. And lastly, some people use brokers. I didn't. I didn't for two reasons. One is because I was approached by a buyer, and usually the broker will help you find a buyer, but also the brokers typically charge a percentage of the sales price like real estate agents, and that can be a big number, so you have to be careful about working with brokers.
All right, I'm going to jump to Susan, but before I do, can you just share the story of when you said you wanted to sell your business? And
Yeah,
we
so
have to hear
this is
story.
kind of funny. So when I had a very frustrating day one day, and as business owners, we always have frustrating days, right? So this was a really frustrating day, like 10 out of 10 frustration. And so at the end of the day, I plopped down and I told my assistant, I said, if someone would call me and offer to buy this business today with a reasonable price, I would sign on the dotted line. And 20 minutes later, I got a call. But first of all, this was the first time I had ever said this out loud. I thought it before, but this is the first time I'd said it out loud. 20 minutes later, I get a call from a colleague that I hadn't spoken to in over 8 years, who said, Angela, hey, how are you? The business that I joined 4 years ago, they're interested in buying your practice. And that's the company that I sold to. Now, I didn't sign that day. But, so I really believe in the power of suggestion.
Power of intention, power of suggestion, she manifested that, so I want everybody to be thinking, say it out loud.
Yes.
Whatever you want, say it out loud.
Get the universe involved.
Exactly. And speaking of the universe,
So I had a very interesting journey. I mean, similarly, I sort of in my head sometimes thought, I'm done. 28 years, I'm done. And this lady I knew came to see me, and we were walking around and we were chatting about my business, and she said, well, so what's your number? And I thought she wanted my telephone number.
all right, so wait, now I have to back up and just say, because you need to know what this business is, and without being humble at all.
So my business was we're at the tip of Africa, and we had the best small hotel in the world, And our restaurant over a number of years was in the top 50 restaurants in the world and the best restaurant in Africa. So we had an all-female team. The chef was female, the general manager was female, our whole team was female, and we employed locally from our community women. And in Africa, if you employ women, for every woman you employ, you feed 10 people. So we were really proud of that. And so she said to me, Susan, your number, what do you want for your business? So I said, okay. And I sort of came up with a number. I mean, it was not related to figures or anything. And so the journey started, and it was across cultures. We had, the buyer was from India. We had to wait for his guru to tell us what time of the day we could sign the deal, and he wanted me to tell my staff when we got to that point on a Sunday evening at 9:10 in the evening, and I said, just please go back to the guru and find another day and another time. So I think there are all sorts of surprises that come along that you don't expect. And for me, one of the biggest things we did was we put the papers for the deal together. So I believe if your lawyers or whoever's on your side draws up the initial papers, you get everything you want in the deal in, and the other team have to negotiate to take them out.
Right. Sheri, tell us more about getting your house built, but more importantly, you were at the highest levels, and you did a stock sale, and you know, talk a little bit about what yours was like.
Sure. So I have a couple of different experiences. The first was a private sale of my natural gas supply business to Hess. Not unlike Angela, I get a call out of the blue from Hess that says, I want to buy your business. Now, luckily for me, it was a time when margins were starting to compress and decline, and I was finding myself in a little bit of a panic because I wasn't prepared, as I mentioned earlier, right? So during the due diligence process, it's a very long process because I wasn't ready, and I lost value during that. That's why I made that as my opening point. As it turned out, it was a beautiful deal. It still took a year to get done. It was actually an asset deal, again, private sale. My second opportunity, having learned from the first, was my consulting business, an energy consulting business. And I was kind of starting to look forward at the marketplace, do a lot of chess playing, things I hadn't done the first time around, and realized that that consulting framework was starting to change, particularly in the energy space. And I opted this time, because I felt I had the benefit of time, to engage an investment banker. So I actually used an investment banker the second time around, a completely different process. And for me, I have zero regrets, although Angela and the gals make great points about using brokers. This wasn't just a broker, this was an investment banker, very professional. And at the end of the day, while I did pay a fee, in fact, you do pay a fee, the multiple was much greater. The multiple far exceeded what I paid the investment banker.
So it sounds like it's almost what is the right fit. So
Yes.
before I get to Ellie, I just have a quick question. How many of you started your businesses in the pre-internet age?
Oh, it's a lot.
Okay. Okay. And how many of you started after? That would be, okay,
Everyone
thank
else.
you. All right, so Ellie's going to give us her vantage point from having started before the internet age.
So I want to start with this
How many of you remember toe socks?
How many of you have experience with toe socks?
I may still have mine.
So these are what turned us into a global company in a pre-internet era. And it was this product that just captured the imagination of the globe and turned us into a global contender, which ultimately led us to Ralph Lauren, a luxury brand who we were able to license with. So the business started in the early 70s. This product came out, and we were with Ralph Lauren from 1982 to when we sold the company in 07. And part of why the sale was really successful is that the company that was buying us wanted to have that Ralph Lauren brand. So we had a strategic advantage also, because in a pre-internet business, we had the space, we created the space of fashion hosiery, and we didn't have many intruders or copiers. It's like you couldn't go onto Google and start researching. Pre-internet, it's a whole different world. And we had that advantage, so we were able to build, get to Ralph Lauren, and then go to sale. And the best part about the sale was we sold it 6 months before the recession in '07. So there's a lot of lucky things going on. The whole idea started just as an actual fluke. Was, you know, my husband, myself, and sister and brother-in-law, we just said, we were from the hippie era, early 70s period, and we said, you know, some friends of ours were tie-dyeing t-shirts, and we said, well, let's just create a product just to make a little money. And we each put in $500, and it grew to a $60 million company. Oh my God. So I think my message is things like this can happen to everyone, and that there is also life after you sell your business.
And we're going to get into that in a minute. So before that, I wanted to throw out the idea of either doing your due diligence and or knowing your competition. Who would like to pick up on that?
And I'll follow you.
Doctor?
So Sheri talked a little bit about doing your due diligence on your own company before you sell, making sure that everything is clean. But I also think it's important to do your due diligence on the buyer, because you want to make sure that your buyer's vision aligns with your vision, okay? And then also, if you started your business, you will forever be called the founder of that business. And so that means that your brand will forever be tied to your business, even after you leave. And so, case in point, I don't know how many of you heard about the little situation of the Patriots owner in Florida, right? I won't go into the sort of detail of that. But when that happened, actually it was the former owner whose name and face were plastered all over the news channels, and she had sold that business 6 years prior. And so you want to make sure that whoever you sell to doesn't have unscrupulous business practices. Make sure that they're above board. And you can find so much just by Googling people. You can Google, you can access the court systems, make sure they don't have bankruptcies and things like that. There's so much information out there that you can find out.
I could interrupt for a minute and just say a really big name, Diane von Furstenberg, sold her company and they ended up selling product to Walmart, which was not in her vision of who she was or what her product was. And she ended up at great expense having to buy her business back to clarity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you want to talk?
I was just going to make one point about competitors. And you never know when your competitors may be the best buyers for your business. So while I've always tended to keep my competitors at arm's length, what I learned throughout my 30-year career in the energy industry is it was so important to stay aligned with them, have relationships with them, so that if I had found myself in the situation that I did when I was kind of in a scramble to sell my natural gas supply business, and I had those relationships such that I could just pick up the phone with one of my competitors and say, let's have breakfast, I want to hear what you're doing, I want to, just have a relationship that you're comfortable enough that you can pick up the phone or have a meeting with them, and the next thing you know, things could move forward and they could end up being the best buyer for your business. So while we tend to keep our competitors kind of at bay, I suggest we kind of embrace those relationships because we may need them at some point.
Keep your friends close and your enemies close.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? The person who bought our business, he was moving into the hospitality industry in South Africa. And so one of the things we did, which was for them was one of the most valuable, was our database, which was huge for them. We only gave them that database on the day that they took over. So we didn't even include it in the due diligence. We didn't, because that, if they got that, they could have walked away from the deal with everything.
Yeah.
And so for us, that was really an important thing to keep back. So if you are selling to a competitor, I think there's certain things that you disclose and don't disclose, which are along the way.
And
Can you repeat what you just said? What did you wait to give them?
Our database.
database, yeah.
That was really on takeover, they got that.
Yeah. And let me just ask also, and then we'll come over to Ellie, but you had also talked about staff. You mentioned relationships. What about relationships with your staff? So did you want
So yeah, I'd owned my business for 28 years and very much, I'm not sure in America it's the same, you become family. we worked 365 days a year, 24/7 in that industry. That children had started working for me. So it was incredibly important for me that the staff was secure in the changeover. It was very, very important. And the other thing is that we made sure that the staff benefited from the sale as well. So we did very good bonuses for the staff. And just quickly, one of the staff, when I gave her the amount she was getting, she just looked at me and these tears came down her face and she said to me, I never thought I would see so many noughts in my life. And that for me was huge, was being able to do this for people who'd given everything to make sure that I got to where I got to.
I would just want to add a little bit to that. That's why doing research on the buyer is so important for buyers, because you don't know if they have hidden agendas, and you need to protect your employees who have been with you, for 30 years or so, because once you make that sale, if you don't really investigate them, they can start doing some nasty things. So it's really, really, really important to do that investigative process as much as you can.
I was just going to make a point about financial purchasers versus strategic purchasers. As Susan said, she had a very strategic purchaser, right? Don't discount the benefit of a potential financial buyer, though, because a financial buyer, if you're talking to both strategics and financials, oftentimes their pricing to you will be higher, and you can use that higher price as you negotiate with a strategic buyer. I think naturally as women, like Susan said, we're really concerned about our employees, our suppliers, our customers. We want to make sure everyone is taken care of, and that's why we tend to sell to the strategics, but use the financial players in a way that can really benefit the ultimate sales price.
All right, now, we have someone who, as you heard, was with the CIA. So, even though she was, I want you to hear from the rest of the panel, and obviously Angela too, but how they kept this under wraps. So,
Yeah.
Angela, do you want to take this?
So I think it's important, and I agree with Susan. It's so important to think about your staff and make sure that they're going to be taken care of after the sale. But you do not want them in the room during the sale. You do not want them to know about it, because employees invariably get anxious and they jump ship. They hear that you're going to sell, they jump ship, and so there goes the value of your company. So you want to make sure you keep it a secret. And so because it's a lot of paperwork, I had to share with 2 trusted people, and that was it. And we actually had a top secret code word that we used for the project, and so that's how we kept it under wraps.
And you did too, right?
Yeah, we started a whole new email. We set up different emails because my PA was in it, and the only other person was my chef, because she was absolutely critical to the deal. They absolutely wanted her, so it was non-negotiable. And it was always remembering to work off that email and not the other email. And my problem was I didn't have my house in order. So I'm a typical entrepreneur. I'd added a window here and done something there, and I sort of hadn't put all the plans in, and there were certain things that they weren't major, but I needed to sort out. So we had to do all of that, but without letting the staff know. So I told them we were going paperless, and we were all putting it in Dropbox, because I had to find all these papers after 28 years that I had no idea where they were. So yeah, it's very difficult.
Did you have any covert operations?
We did, actually we had to, because we wanted the buyers of the business, potential buyers of the business, to see our operation. Well, they couldn't come in the door and tell the receptionist who they were with, right? So when I sold my business, my credit line, personal credit line, was $350 million. That meant I dealt with a ton of banks, right? So every potential buyer that I had was JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. When they would come in the door, they weren't allowed to disclose. They weren't allowed to wear their company pin. They had to disclose themselves as though they were with a bank. That way the receptionist and anybody that happened to be visiting with the receptionist didn't hear, wait, who are all these people? These are potential, they could be buying us. Well, nobody's going to think a bank is doing that. So that was our way of keeping it.
Angela, would we qualify for the CIA? All right, so speaking of transition, so this woman to the right of me, Ellie, transitioned from, we like to say, fashion to fashioning careers and lifestyles. So, do you want to?
So, think about sort of the next chapter and what am I going to do once I sell my business becomes a real thing. And it's actually very good to start thinking about it, but it's a very busy process of selling your business, so it's not easy to think about, okay, what am I going to do next? But there is life after sale. And what happened in my instance is that I knew that I didn't want to like retire. I wanted to still have a life afterwards, a career. And it ended up that, I went from designing hosiery to sort of consulting with entrepreneurs, women, to design their life and find their what's next. And it was a consulting business, a coaching and consulting business. Basically, life and business kind of rolled together. So EG Coaching, and I found a platform for myself, taking some of the elements of where I came from and integrating it into this new area, which made me very happy because I like making a difference. So it was that transition. So it's an important thing to think about. And I think the sooner the better, sort of. Oh, and here's just one other thing. We all have these dreams that have been up in a closet somewhere, capturing dust. And this is a time when you can take some of those down and start kind of investigating what's here. Is there something here that is my calling? Is there something here that I've always dreamed of doing? So I think that's a really great thing to do also.
All right, Susan.
And for me, that journey was incredibly personal, and I'd seen too many people who'd retired or sold their businesses, and they almost had nervous breakdowns and a sense of loss of who they were. So from the day I started, I actually went to see a psychologist, and the whole time while I was preparing the documents, I was preparing my head. And when it came to the day before selling, I had this incredible lawyer who said to me, walk around the block, and this is like a marriage. Until you sign that document, the deal isn't done. And if you want to walk away now, I'll sort it all out for you. But I think because I'd been with a psychologist, I was completely prepared for that day. And so I was ready for the next. I must admit that the day after I sold, so they walked in and I walked out. And I sort of got up, at 5:30, went to my email and went, and there was nothing. And we all dream of that day for nothing. But when there is nothing, there is a bit of a panic. And the one thing I had to do for myself is I made myself a business card, because it was like my security blanket. Because, somebody asked me, who was I? I'd been Susan Huxter, Le Quartier Français, and it was my alter ego. It was all one and the same.
Angela.
So my situation was a little different because it was a medical practice. And so although I was done with all the administrative headaches of owning a business, I still wanted to continue to practice medicine. So I actually signed a 5-year employment deal, which is pretty atypical. And let me tell you, day one of working for somebody else is different. Like, you notice it. So it's been different, but it's been good. I was able to offload all the stuff that I didn't like payroll and taxes and all that stuff, and really focus on what I enjoy. So I'm still happy that I did it.
So if anyone has any issues they want to talk to Angela about, no, just kidding. All right, Sheri's got a huge 180 degree. We've got to hear what she did from her oil story. Sarah, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, and I actually have some volunteers to help Sarah as well.
Yeah.
So after being in the energy industry for 30 plus years, very stressful, many sleepless nights, and I was the sole owner. You can't imagine how it impacted my family adversely, right? So when my son and daughter-in-law moved back to Ohio, I said, you know what, let's do something fun. I just sold my last business. Let's create something that we can have as a family that's a truly fun business. So we decided to take my natural gas and oil experience And another day 3, where we use natural gas every day to make wonderful goodies. So what you're all going to sample today is our homemade shortbread cookie on the bottom, homemade buttercream frosty on top,
Sheri, I think
buttercream.
you have it on your right, isn't that it?
Oh,
Yes.
oh, yes.
Why describe when you can imbibe?
So you will smell immediately the almond and vanilla and the butter.
Wow.
Please enjoy.
As you're munching, we're going to continue on with, we have another prop and another WPO Next adventure. Go ahead.
So this is my prop now. So what happened to me, I sold my business. They walked in, I walked out. I married off both my sons within 6 months, so they were done. And I have the passports and I travel now. So my eldest son and I started a bespoke travel business. He's based in the UK, I'm based in South Africa. And I'm the CMO, the Chief Motherly Officer, which means I can interfere as much as I like. And dip in and out of the business and travel. And this year we started Traveling Sue, Come Away With Us, where I started bespoke trips for women. And we did Cuba earlier this year, and hopefully Lebanon later this year, and we curated all the trips for the IREC conference as well.
And that's Cartology?
Cartology travel.
Cartology, yeah.
Yep.
So, so just to go with that passport theme, when we get to question and answers, the first 5 people who ask questions will get, from South Africa, passport covers. So just be thinking, courtesy of Susan, and just be thinking of the questions that you may want to ask. So, just getting back to going from oil to cooking oil. So how has it been for you? Have you looked back at all?
Not at all. Not at all. I told a friend just this morning when I was giving her a little counsel on possibly selling her business. She has a lot of anxiety around it, right? What's next and so forth. I said, keep this in mind. Your worst day after you've sold your business will be far better than your best day you ever spent in your life.
So,
You want to
yeah,
repeat it?
because these are good tweets and good comments. If you want to tweet these out, I'll write them down.
I really could tweet this flavor.
All right, I just, Sheri hasn't said this, but I want you to know, these were baked in Ohio and brought fresh here for all of you.
Okay, Victorian Liz who trucked them here for me.
Where in your
Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you.
30-year brand. There are 80 bakeries in Central Ohio. 3 scratch bakeries were one of them.
All right, well, this is perfect timing because we're going to wrap it up. I hope that everybody knows what their WPO Next. Go ahead.
Let me just say that when you get a survey after the conference, I hope that you'll give us all high grades. This is our first